today, DZMJ, right with us is one of the amazing speakers in this activity, leading with the Heart Global Women's Summit. Of course, with us is the birthday celebrant, no other than Majella tumangan Villaroman, the president of My Court Philippines. Yes, Madam Majella, after this Global Women's Summit, what is your plan for the My Court Philippines further promote for mental health awareness around the country, especially sa mga kabataan natin na makikita natin na halimbawa kung saan, halimbawa po on the news na broken hearted lang, nag-suicide na, parang unlike ng mga tao before na ganun sila ka-stress, but this time yung mga kabataan natin is very vulnerable sila pagdating sa life nila.
Right. You know, when you talk about the kabataan, this would be the age group that we call the Z generation.
Gen X.
Diba? No, Gen X and the millennials and
Z.
Diba? They're younger. And actually, maybe most of them are getting smarter, but they lack the understanding how important it is to contain their use of social media, like what I was talking about today, social media and well-being. So, as an example, part of the things that WHO requires is that we limit talks about suicide. Because there's a phenomena that goes on when they hear, let's say it became successful or not successful, there's a phenomenon that becomes parang copycat syndrome. Diba? Pero you know, we get those phone calls at my court. So, what we do is actually help companies. Kasi syempre, yung mga kumpanya we work with, yung mga empleyado can be, you know, really young. 19 pa nga, may iba eh.
The seafarer industry.
O sa seafarers, iba naman yun. But, you know, they start talking about suicide. Although, at the end of the day, yung relationships, doon nag-uumpisa. Di ba? And it leads to depression, anxiety, and all that. So what are we doing? Family, strengthening the family. So in March, I actually am producing the fascinating womanhood and the magnetic man. Diba?
Dahil Women Month sa March.
And do you remember Sally Bongalonta?
Yeah.
So Sally Bongalonta is the executive director for VV5, which is a non-profit that I helped start up. And at the same time, Sally Bongalonta works with the Family Alliances. And you know, I think this group of people have a very good perspective on the family breakdown. Kasi our work has changed in the last decade or even 2 decades. Yung mga OFW natin, there's more women that are leading and financial concerns, diba? And we have to understand what affects a woman. Dati kasi, as a woman, you have to take care of your children, kung anong kakain mo sa gabi, that your husband is okay, your husband is the breadwinner, diba? But at the end, anong nangyayari? Now women go out and then they travel overseas, nagkaka-breakdown ang ating families. So, that is a fascinating woman because may mga strength and leadership na. Although, what is a magnetic man? Diba?
Nako!
Kasi syempre women na na-expose, ayaw naman nilang tinutulak-tulak din sila. Right? Kaya nangyayari, sometimes yung breakdown, yung may nangangaliwa. Right? So, a magnetic man is somebody that can attract, parang magnet sa refrigerator. Na, imbis na tutulak yung babae to come, na-attract siya. So that's a part of the seminar trainings that my court will be putting together in March. And then, of course, right now, I focused a lot on women issues there. And partly because of the important role of women when it comes to families, when it comes to happiness, to the mental health of our youth. We really need to take care of our youth. And what more do you get the nurture from? Mother. Diba? Mothers should nurture. Oo, di ba? And so, I think, slowly, those are some of the things that we're doing at my court, and those are programs attached to our international employee assistance programs that we offer to companies. And also in September, I'm bringing the Asia Pacific Employee Assistance Roundtable here in the Philippines.
Wow.
Yes.
It's an international event.
Yeah, it's on its 17th year. The second time here in the Philippines. The first time it was in 2015, and I brought it here too. So now, just because of the Taal situation, of course, that's huge. And now the coronavirus, we had to push back for September. But this will gather 13 countries all over Asia. We're probably going to expand a small group, but they're all leaders. Possibly we'll have about 150. But they're the leaders that represent insurance companies, yung mga experts like Kevin Menon, you know. And they're coming from Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, China, Hong Kong, UK,
Not
United
only
States.
Asia.
Oo. Kasi syempre we have to understand we're global na eh.
Yeah.
Pero syempre, iba naman yung localize also in Asia, and then from Asia, localize it with your country. I represent the Philippines in the board of directors for APPEAR, in your Asia Pacific Employee Assistance Roundtable. And our goal is hopefully we can bring best practices here para our experts, yung mga nasa field ng clinical psychology or mga social workers, they will learn more maybe about crisis management. Kasi mga ano na yan, big issues.
Right now po, being the president of my court in the Philippines, ano po yung your participation for the stress relief sa mga tao sa Taal?
Oo nga.
Kasi it's unexpected.
Advocacy yung ginawa namin. You know, so partly, we supported the Philippine Mental Health Association because they had a drive that you can bring yung mga donations there. So yung, of course, yung food, yung mga blankets, up to even yung mga tumblers, kasi yung tubig, di ba? And so then,
Portable water.
yung mga clinicians namin, yung mga counselors, may mga tiga Batangas. So, pinick up nila yung donations, and then they brought it to Batangas, tapos may counseling na doon. So part of it, that's how we were very active in Taal, but it was really supporting the Philippine Mental Health Association. Also through the Rotary Club. So yung Rotary Club, we donated. Yun na nga yun. And actually yung aking influential, the 100 most influential Filipinas, we also had the whole drive for Taal. In fact, this conference was hard to manage kasi people were afraid to travel, and who can think about it? So it was all about Taal.
At least we're doing the interview without having the mask.
Ngayon, coronavirus naman.
Yeah.
Oo. So we really need to have it every day. Hindi pwedeng because of may disaster lang. Kasi we can prevent
It's a
it.
continuous
We have to believe nagbabago na mundo. So, with the changing environment, climate change, di ba? Siyempre, ganyan nangyari, Taal. Or, let's say, yung mainit sa Australia, di ba, there was a big fire. So now, itong coronavirus that's traveling everywhere na. So why are we refusing to prepare ourselves to know what to do para hindi ka masyadong nato-traumatize? And like my kwento kanina, medyo malalaki din yung mga pinagdaanan ko. So I learned things from experts of what to do. So yun ang gusto ko sana impart, na meron tayong magagawa kahit na papaano. And we're going to be prepared every time, even from small things up to the big things. Yun.
And lastly po, for a conclusion, your message of the happiness to the world, because the DZMJ is the inspiration.
happiness station.
Yeah. Happiness.
Well, today I was very happy, so I have to thank Mimi Bergman. She's from New York, and she was my nominee for the 100 Most Influential Filipina last year in Paris, 2019. And so she collaborated with Alta Prema Wellbeing, and since she's my friend, she was my nominee, awardee, I thought maybe why don't we just welcome her and ask the support of our influential Filipinas. And so you met some of them, the great presentations, di ba? And
From different field.
right, and what we all share in common is the understanding that we need to have our own purpose in life. And then understanding the purpose in life, you're able to share that joy and happiness to others. And that gives you meaning in life. So in a way, it's a form of growing our happiness society. And I think if we just continue to carry on as a tribe, we're the happiness society, as a tribe, diba? Let's go and multiply.
Very well said.
This afternoon, and actually it's quite interesting because we came from another function, so we're very, very happy to see you. So anyway, today, okay, thank you very much. I wanted to share with you social media and well-being. And before we do that, do you have your smartphone with you?
Yes.
I didn't hear you.
Yes.
And how many of you are in social media? Well, there you go. Excellent. You know why? Because social media and devices are so much integrated in our lifestyle. Diba? Right? And so, for instance, you know, my smartphone tells me every week that my average usage is 5 hours per day. In fact, some of my friends said that when I die, my epitaph's going to say, connectivity is isolation. Believe that, right? So, when my friend Mimi Bergman, and I'm sure you've met her earlier, asked me to come take part in today's Leading with Heart, I felt sharing my journey with you begins with understanding mental health and well-being, and how technology is a driving force of change. I'm Majella Villaroman, and today, thank you for sharing my story. December 7, 1993, 5:33 p.m. This black man entered the train, the Long Island Railroad train, bound from New York to Long Island. He sat at the back of the train, and as they passed New York, going to Long Island, he stood up and systematically, left and right, started shooting the passengers with his semi-automatic rifle with black Talon bullets. Do you know what black Talon bullets are? They cut inside and it swirls. Yes. And not only that, 40 people in 3 cars were shot. 8 people died in the train. My sister, Marita Tumangan, she was on her way home. She lives in Long Island. She's a lawyer who recently, at that time, recently passed the New York bar exam with flying colors. She was a passenger. And she didn't make it. She was the second one, last shot, as she crawled towards the nearest vestibule. And she died instantaneously because the bullet went straight to her heart. At that time, I lived in Los Angeles, California. I was on my way home from work. So when I got home, I got a phone call from my uncle from New Jersey, and he said, "Were you watching the news?" And I said, "Yes, LIRR massacre." So he said, "Marita's in the train." So I said, "What? How is she? Where is she?" Moment of silence, and then he says, "She was shot in the train. You have to look for her. You're the only next of kin." And so I fell on my knees. I was going crazy. I was crying. And the only thing I can think of is, how can this happen to me? How can this happen? Is it for real? And how will I tell my family who's back home in the Philippines? The Philippine Embassy in New York was very helpful. They started to look for my sister. And so I was able to find out which hospital where her body lies. And then I can talk to them and say, I'd like to arrange my sister's body to be moved to a funeral home. And they said, okay, but you gotta send clothes. Because all her clothes and personal belongings is going to be sequestered for the criminal investigation. So I had to call a friend in New York, have her send some clothes for my sister, so therefore they were able to transfer her to the funeral home. That time, my dad was the secretary of the Senate, Philippine Senate, and so we were getting a lot of support from the Filipino community in the United States as well as here. So in a way, I was kind of just floating to get there, right? I boarded the midnight flight from Los Angeles to New York City. When I landed in New York, the first thing I see, the New York Times. And this is the picture of my sister and with a black man that they called deranged. So I read what he's about. And they said that this black man lived in a single room apartment in New York with all the walls painted black, no windows, no bathroom. He's mentally ill. But he's from Jamaica. And not only that, he's a scholar in a prestigious university in New York. Something's wrong. He felt discriminated on. He was so angry that he hated all the white people. He hated the Uncle Tom blacks. He hated the Asians because we took their jobs. He was so full of hatred that his whole defense is about black rage. This was the biggest thing in the United States, December 7, 1993. As a result, media was everywhere. Meanwhile, I bring my sister's body back here in the Philippines. Philippines, media was everywhere. And I was so sad. I was so much in pain. And it doesn't get over. Every year, since 1993 to date, it doesn't change. But that's okay. Because this changed my life. And you turn it for your purpose. And it is my purpose to spread mental health and well-being. Before this, next. Oops. Maybe it's my edited slide. Oh my God. Anyway, I wanted to show a picture of this ocean, this vast ocean with a canoe. You know, over the years with working in mental health, I learned from Francesca, who's a leading psychologist in behavioral health and change, that people change because of major events that take place in their lives. So what can trigger it? It can be because you're going to get married, you're getting a divorce, you're going to have a baby, you're starting a new job, a loss of a loved one. In my case, it was that tragedy. So my quest for understanding, what is mental illness? What is mental health? And what happened to me and my sister and my family? And how can I prevent this from happening to others? It was my quest. And so I started to work in the Institute for Behavioral Healthcare. That's in Tiburon, California. And we were working with experts in behavioral healthcare in the era of managed care. So managed care is insurance-based. And we were training about 10,000 frontline clinicians every year. And we had a platform for dialogue so you can have ongoing studies on how to improve mental health policies, mental health treatment programs, you know, everything that's related to mental health. And so you know what? I told them my story. I told everyone my story, and I even called Senator Dominici and Senator Wellstone, who are the proponents of the mental health parity law in the United States. This was 1995. Guess what? In 6 months, they passed the mental health parity law. And I produced the first international behavioral health care conference so we can bring knowledge about mental health. That was the beginning of the internet. Remember, I don't know if you're too young, 1995, you know? But I felt, because they referred to me as the most networked person because I reached out everywhere in the world using the internet. And then, of course, the fax machine. But at the same time, they were saying that I own the biggest network of experts working in the field of mental health, addiction treatment, and substance abuse treatment. I just needed to be a friend to everybody. I wanted to be the resource so that everybody has access to the best quality care. And this is how I saw the world, like the web. So as you can see here, social media is part of our life. Over those years, from working through email, I spent probably 30% of my working life using social media. Not just Facebook, of course. I mean, I do my, my morning meditation, I do my loving kindness meditation. So I do a lot of things, my app, even Waze. But it is so much part of our society. So your device, you have increased dependency on it. As you can see, everybody has their smartphone. And so as you can see, I did that too. I was able to create that global movement and society because I stayed connected through social media platforms. Of course, it started with I was young then. And of course, I embrace now as I'm an adult. And so, as a management consultant, I so love statistics. So here, I know maybe you can read it, right?
Yeah.
For me, what stands out is Facebook has 2.3 billion monthly active users worldwide. And social media users in the Philippines is 76 million. Out of that 76 million, you have 75 million Filipinos on Facebook, right? And as you can see here, it says that the average worldwide would spend time in social media about 2 hours and more. But in the Philippines, it doubles. As you can see, I spend 5 hours. So I'm in the extreme, right? And if you look at this, 40% of the users have a hard time to give up social media because you start to develop that dependency, almost to the point of addiction. And so focusing on mental health and well-being, I wanted to point to you how the World Health Organization revised the meaning of health in the year 2000. And I was part of this group. I was a consultant to the World Health Organization and the International Labor Organization with the understanding that stress is a component of health. It impacts our lives. And we don't have the coping skills. And at the same time, how do we become productive individuals for a better society? That was in 2000. So the impact of social media, this is technology, right? It could be our friend or our foe. With the frequent use of social media and the dependency on your device and everything, without the coping skills, it could lead to the mental disorders. What are those? Let's say depression. And the sister of depression is? Thank you. That's right. Depression and anxiety. And then you combine it with other factors, so you get the low self-confidence, lack of self-esteem, And how does that happen? Do you remember dopamine? I love dopamine too. You know, you start by posting something, you get the like, ooh, I have like 60 friends watching me, you know. And then you start saying, oh, let me answer and then like. Next thing you know, it just becomes something that you do normally. Oh, I like this girl. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Boom, like. And every time you do that, dopamine, dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter in your brain. You want more of it. So just like any drug, cigarettes, alcohol, chemicals, it could be that way because we're searching for that dopamine. Now, the sad part is for the young people who are, still forming their, let's say, who they are. They start seeing their friends posting their best dress, and or some of their friends saying, oh, I received this award here and there, or I'm traveling, and this is in my bucket list. These young ladies, young people, or even us, will start saying, am I not good enough? Why is that not happening to me? How come she has so much money? I don't. Am I not pretty? How do I become like her? So then there will be unmet expectations, right? In my advice, coming from the experience of even having to take care of myself, like bullying and harassment, I wanted to give this quick example because I was a president of a Rotary Club, Manila 101 here in the Philippines. And one of my members decided they wanted to run for district governor. And she lost. But she wanted me to sign a protest. And, I can't sign it. And she went out of her way to commit to cyberbullying. Oh my God. To the point that I developed anxiety and I was afraid to go out. But luckily, because I started to understand the coping skills when it comes to social media. And that's how come I want to share this with you. The self-discipline. So being disciplined in your usage. I probably time myself like at 10 a.m., like when you wake up, you want to do your meditation, 10 minutes, in a way it kind of helps. And then you take a break, like today, where we are. Isn't this lovely? We're all together. And so, social media detox, when people are so negative, they start calling you evil. They start saying you're a liar. Don't hesitate. Remove them from your chat room. Not only that, unfriend them. Unfollow. It's okay. The lives go on. Just disconnect from negative. Device-free time. You just introduce your device-free time. Set it aside. Spend time with your family. Take a walk. Meditate. And so, as you can see, everything that I do is based on love. Because love is when the well-being of an individual is essential to one's own well-being. And this is by a poet, Robert Heinlein. I integrate this in everything I do in my life and in my work. My company, My Board Corporation, is all about relationships. We believe in happiness and joy. We connect you to the best resource. It could be through technology, but we have the human kindness. We provide behavioral health care counseling, life coaching, we have training programs, and seminars. We also provide employee assistance program certification. My other company is called Aspirare, and this one derives from a Greek word, aspire to be, because we work directly with individuals to learn love and self-care. So, as you can see, technology can be your friend or your enemy, but love yourself first. Love with a big heart. And thank you so much for having me today, and I hope you learned something about me too.
You've just witnessed our interview, one of the inspiring speaker of Leading with the Heart Global Women's Summit today, February 1. Of course, that speaker is no other than the President of My Philippines, Majella tumangan Villaroman. This is MJ Vlogger of DZMJ Online, makabuluhang journalism, your happiness channel.